back to Dallas.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here, and thank you for spending your weekend with us.
My pleasure. It's been a while.
It has been a little bit. The last time you were here, we were at the Urban Convention Center, about half the size of this room and about half the size of the planet at this point. And you have had an interesting run of the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. I have.
Let's talk. Let's first hit. Let's hit the bullet points first. People who know the comic Deadpool know that the relationship angles of it weren't necessarily drawn out. So when they actually said we want that relationship back for Deadpool 2, I was incredibly happy to see you come back for the sequel to work with Ryan again.
Thanks, yeah, me too. It's like,
talk a little bit about working with Ryan Reynolds on a property that everybody wanted to see happen and no one thought was actually going to be brought to fruition to begin with.
Yeah, it took him, I think, a solid 8 years to get that movie going, and it wasn't until leaked footage made it onto the internet and the fans went crazy. It was that beginning, insane, action-packed sort of like traffic montage with all the bad guys in the cars and everything. And fans were like, we need to see this movie. That Fox actually agreed to make it. So when they approached me about it, okay, you're gonna hate me for this. I was like, Deadpool, is that the remake of the Paul Newman movie? What's that? And they weren't releasing a script, so I didn't really make much of it, and I went in and I auditioned and I read the scenes and I was like, this is kind of cool. What is this? And I was like doing some research and I was like, oh. So then by the time I went into test with Ryan, obviously I was aware of what it was, but it took some time for me to get it all in there. And it was an amazing opportunity, and as soon as I tested with him, I knew that our chemistry was right and it would be a really fun movie to make, and then I just had to hope that I got the job.
About that same time as the process for Deadpool was starting, that's about the same bit where you started working on Gotham as well. Which wound up coming first in that?
Gotham came first. I got offered the role of Dr. Tompkins on Gotham about, I think like 4 or 5 months, right before I tested for Deadpool. So I flew to New York and I was working on Gotham when I got the audition. I was actually on my way to the airport to go shoot Gotham, and I literally stopped at the casting person's office before getting on a plane, and then went to shoot and then found out they wanted me to test for it, and the test happened to be in New York because Ryan lived in New York, so it all kind of worked out in that way. And then it was a small miracle to get DC and Marvel to agree to let me to do both, and also to get Fox Television and Fox Film Studios to agree to let me to be in both superhero things. So that's a miracle. I still don't know who paid whom off, but somebody up there likes me.
That had to be lawyers. Working on both of them concurrently, and you've done a wonderful batch of TV over your career so far, and movies as well. Is there an experience that you prefer? They're forcing you at night point, you have to choose, or you can only do movies, you can only do TV, pacing, pay notwithstanding, obviously, because that's always a different ballpark itself. But is there one medium you prefer working in rather than the other?
Not really. I would be happy with either choice, I think. The great thing about television is you get to carry a character through and through for several months and tell several different stories with the same person. And with a film, it's a finite amount of time. You know exactly the story you're telling start to finish. So you can really sort of plan out how you're going to play certain scenes. I mean, in TV sometimes you don't get to finish a story, which can be very frustrating.
I can think of one series in particular where I and let's just get this out of the way. We are never going to see Firefly season 2, right? And I say, shut up, too soon!
I wish I could tell you otherwise. We're not shooting one. I think now would be a little tough, especially with Ron gone, which breaks my heart. But you never know.
Okay. Keep those embers of hope burning. We do have it is right there. We do have a microphone here, so if you guys have any questions, please go ahead and queue on up, because we want to get to as many of your questions as possible. What can you tell us about Deadpool 2, other than that wonderful little exchange that we see at the beginning of the trailer about saving you from gluten along with the rest of the world?
Gluten's terrible. Well, so the first one, I guess, is more of an origin story, right? Like, who is Deadpool, how he becomes who he is. The second one, I guess, is like his motivation to be who he is. So Vanessa and Deadpool are still together. It is further along in their relationship. They are looking to further their relationship. You can probably guess what that means. Things go crazy, as they always do on Deadpool. But the movie is essentially about like what makes him tick.
And do you still celebrate International Women's Day together?
It's why we're together.
Fabulous. Let's go for the first question.
Hello. You already mentioned it, Marvel and DC love you in Gotham, love you in Deadpool, but I feel like that might limit you from a starring role in one of those, Marvel DC franchises. Obviously, as V and Firefly, I think the science fiction would be great. So, Star Trek, Star Wars, would either of those interest you, or is there anything else that you can?
Yeah, we really got to round that out, right? I mean, I've done the comics, I've done the sci-fi. Now it's time for Star Wars and time for other things, right? I don't know. I think I might need to leave room for other people to do some.
No, just be in everything.
Thank you. Who says? Let her be in everything. I would have that.
Okay, it's a Firefly question.
Oh my goodness.
Okay. Where do you think, where would you have liked Anara's character to go? And what do you think her character would have gone?
I think, it's no secret now that I don't think it is anymore that she was dying, and she went to a place she felt was the most isolated and that she wouldn't form any attachments, so that she could just sort of live out the rest of her days peacefully until the end came. And then of course she formed the strongest attachments that she's ever had. So I think, obviously she would have been saved. Obviously she wasn't gonna die. Obviously she ends up with Mal. Obviously everybody's happy, right?
Except for Wash. Now that's too soon, yeah? No, I'll agree with you on that.
Hi, this is my daughter, Anara.
Hello! Nice to meet you. Don't do what I did for a living.
Acting in the
I
other.
say that every day. But I'm a huge fan of Firefly. It's one of my absolute favorite series. Breaks my heart there's only one season.
I know,
So,
thank you.
I wanted to ask what it was like to work with everybody on Firefly, especially Wash, Malcolm, like all of them. Like
Everybody was really, really nice, but we gave each other a lot of crap too, which was really fun. It wasn't a very precious, it was like family, it was like you're really comfortable around each other, you prank each other all the time, it was a very sort of dysfunctional, functional family, and we really love each other, and you can tell by the way we interact still with each other. I just went to Nathan's birthday party last weekend in Los Angeles, and I hadn't seen him in a little while because we're all busy, but it's like no time goes by. We really get along, and it was a very special job for all of us, and everybody was very appreciative of it. And, we felt comfortable enough to give each other shit, to, but also be kind to each other and get each other through scenes and things, and it was a special relationship that will never end.
I'm short. Mine's a Gotham question. So I really liked seeing Lee with the virus and with Jim with the virus. Do you wish that would have lasted a little bit longer, or was it just fun to bury him alive?
I did really enjoy that, and it was fun. It was a lot of fun to play. I do wish they stretched it out a little longer, and I think the fans really enjoyed that too. You finally got to see those two be together in a way that they never could, in a bizarre way.
Bonnie and Clyde almost.
Yeah, it was very Bonnie and Clyde. The good news is this year I get to be sort of striding that line between good and bad. I still have good principles, but I'm definitely going about it in a very different way than Lee ever has, and you know, spoiler alert, shooting Sophia Falcone in the head, like that's something the old Lee never would have done. Yeah, it's my favorite part too this season. But a lot of, it's fun to play a character that can go good, bad, and then somewhere in between as well.
But also a character that, you know, in a lot of more conventional series, you know, you see the character in the lab, then you see them back at the apartment, whatever, but your character gets to mix it up fairly well, and that's kind of uncommon in a show like this.
It is very uncommon, and that's what's, I think, so fun about playing women in comic books and in these heightened worlds, is that there is no good and bad. You can kind of dabble in both, and there's more leeway and it's more creative.
And especially now that, you know, with the, well, we have to make it gritty and we have to, you know, make it darker and so forth, that line for morality, even from something from the 90s, you know, it's white coat, bad coat, and so forth. So from week to week in script to script, you have to wonder where my character is going to toe the line at that point, right?
I think it's fun, you don't know what's going to happen, but you also can't plan, so it's a little frustrating, like if the writer's doing what they think is best for the show, and often there's a dinosaur coming in. Okay, cool. Yeah, I feel the same way. But anyway, it can be frustrating to not have any control, you know, what happens to you. But our writers are, you know, if you really hate an idea or something just doesn't make sense, they're really great about listening and, you know, trying to come up with solutions.
We spoke with Ben yesterday, and I brought up the subject of the iconic look for Commissioner Gordon down the road, which is the thick Coke bottle glasses, and then the big Fuller brush mustache.
Yeah.
Where do you stand on the mustache question?
If he wasn't my husband, I'd say go for it. I don't want to live with that thing for a season.
Well, on top of it, it's not going to be something you can watch growing over a season. It's that after the season break, all right, bust it out and grow it. So
He's not allowed.
amazingly, he said precisely that would be the reaction.
I'm sure.
Right over here.
Hi, so my question is actually on that subject. How is it for you guys being married, and then you're on the set, and then you go home afterwards?
It's great. It's wonderful to work with your spouse, and you know, we, believe it or not, the quality time we spend together is on set, because at home we're dealing with kids. So it's very nice, and it keeps the family together, and we're able to stay in the same city and work. So it's been a real dream.
And it's also got to be good to be working in New York as opposed to Vancouver, which is supposed to be every other city in the world. Being in New York and having that Gotham vibe anytime you're doing a location shoot or the rest of it.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice to work at home. You know, it became home because of the show, and I think we'll stay. It's very nice. I've been, you know, for Deadpool, we went back to Vancouver for other things, and I try to just limit the travel as much as possible.
Hi, okay, I loved you in Deadpool, loved you in Firefly, but I actually wanted to bring up V because I thought you did an absolutely incredible job.
Thank you.
I'm still a little bit devastated that it's gone, but I just wanted to know what the experience was like working on that show, and do you have any idea where they were planning on going after the end of it? If the story
I think that the
continued?
writers completely, like, they just had no clue what to do with that show. Honestly, it's such a rich world, so many places you could go, and I think we just blew it. And I'm really bummed about that, because when I initially signed on to the show, it was a very different show that was pitched to me, which was that they were reinventing the idea of the visitors. That the visitors had actually, we were going to discover, been around for much longer than we thought. That the arrival was just the beginning of the end of their plan. That they had been responsible for the flu, for certain world wars, for things that destroy humanity. And I thought that was a genius idea, this conspiracy theory idea. And then they just completely shied away from it, and ABC was like, I don't know, what is this? We don't know what to do. And then we had showrunner after showrunner fired, and different people coming on, and it just became a mess. And I really hate that we couldn't deliver the show that, you know, to me sounded really cool.
Thank you.
And that was still one of the best series reveals, were those commercials with you with the massive floating ship. And that has me good, just like, yeah, I'm floating 50 feet above the air, 500 feet, widescreen, sure, I'll take that.
Very, very weird. And I did have to learn all those languages, by the way. That was me doing all of them.
And to do that kind of language training and immersive pieces of it, I like the guys from After Earth learned languages they never wound up using. It just got me frustrated because actors like, that space in my brain is not coming back.
But I don't think I'll ever forget it. I don't know if I need to hear them, a few of them again, but like, it becomes muscle memory, like you're just kind of like learning sounds. It's very strange.
Sure.
The episodes of Firefly, when they came out on TV, they played in a completely different order than what was originally intended. I'd like to know who chose to do that and why.
Everybody say it. 1, 2, 3.
There you go. And why, we'll never know.
The people who were fired for them have already been fired.
Yeah, exactly.
I kind of just want to know, like, behind the scenes on sets of like Gotham and on Deadpool, do you guys, mess with each other? Like, I imagine you especially just messing with Ben like all the time.
I'm very serious. Very professional. I don't know. I mean, we do, but we're tired too. Like, when you're like on hour 14 and it's 20 degrees outside, your sense of humor kind of goes away. It gets really hard shooting in New York, shooting 22 episodes, shooting in the winter, all those dark alleys and all those glorious, beautiful film noir shots under the Brooklyn Bridge. They look incredible, but those are like solid, like 8 to 10 hours of our night, in 20-degree weather in the snow, and we love it. But I will say on Gotham, it's more like we hang around, Robin and Corey and everybody. We don't like shoot our stuff and then run to our trailer and just be by ourselves. We all enjoy each other's companies and hang out on set and talk and goof around and that kind of thing. But it's less pranky than Firefly was. Firefly was like, literally practical jokes and pranks on people. And Deadpool, I wasn't there as long as Ryan and Josh and those guys were shooting this time around. When I was shooting the very first one, I was there more, and it was less about pranks and more just, you're so fast paced, and you're moving so fast, and you're improvising, and you're in the middle of a scene, and Ryan stops and he's like, "Now say this line." So we do the scene with that line, and okay, now I have this reaction to this line, and it's moving so fast that you're like, you don't have time to joke around. Like, the joking is happening on camera. So what you're seeing is genuine laughter, genuine coming up with something on the spot, and I think that's what makes it so fresh.
So look for the behind-the-scene cuts.
I mean, there are a few, I think, that they put in there, but most of it ends up in the movie.
Thank you.
And this is why the movie costs this much. It's the gag.
Yeah, exactly. And I would say for Deadpool 2, definitely wait for the closing credits to end.
Well, it is a Marvel flick after all.
First of all, I wanted to say thank you. And then secondly, out of all the things you've been shot in so far, that scene out of V where you've just got the floating skyship up there, is there any shots that you've ever had taken of you that have kind of compared to something like that you've just kind of had that overwhelming sense?
I think it's overwhelming for me in a different way than it is for you. I think seeing my face that big on a screen is terrifying. Not in a good way. I don't think there's anything I've done that's ever been like that. And I do remember that there was a conversation. I tested for it, and then there was conversations amongst the executives at ABC about whether or not I would get the job because of my hair. My hair that was my haircut that I had walked in with. And they were like, it's a little severe, which for them, in their small-mindedness, this does not reflect what I believe, was they thought they were going to isolate people in America who thought that was a lesbian haircut. Exactly, a big eye roll. And this is not what was said directly to me. I had to do a lot of digging to find out? Because nobody would ever admit that out loud. And I just kept hearing that word severe over and over and over again. And then I just started sending photographs of like Jean Seberg and these beautiful actresses in like the 50s and 60s and in French films or in, you know, or Mia Farrow and like with beautiful short pixie haircuts. And you know, kind of started softening everybody a little bit. And then the director, his name was Yves Simoneau, is a French-Canadian director, apparently told them, I have this shot in my mind of you revealing her from behind walking, and all you see is her neck. And they were like, oh, that's interesting. And it's actually, in fact, one of the photos that's on my table is sort of a profile photo, and you can see my neck. It was one of the first V-arrival moments in the pilot. And that's what sold it to people, was this idea, this image of this bizarre creature, you know, that had this long neck. And they were like, oh, okay, we can deal with that. But it's crazy to me to think that I almost lost a job because of the haircut that I had.
Right.
Which then became like an iconic look because of the V's. Yeah. Go figure.
You saved that haircut for
Exactly. Nobody will ever say it's severe again.
You mentioned working with Ron Glass earlier. When we first started having Firefly guests at Dallas Comic Con, there was this wonderful panel that I did with Ron and Adam and Jewel and Sean. But I'm curious if there was one interaction you had with him that stands out when you think about that.
There are so many, and I was so sad that I didn't get to go to his funeral. He was such a kind soul, but his laugh was infectious. I don't know if you guys got a chance to ever hear his laugh, but he had this roaring, rolling laugh that no matter what you were doing, even if he was saying like a kind of mean, digging kind of thing, he would then laugh like that afterwards. You were like, okay, I'm gonna laugh with you, even though you just insulted me. And he didn't do it to be mean. He just had a really wicked sense of humor. Yeah. There were just a lot of moments like that where he would, you know, just get right to the heart of something, and then that laugh would come, and you're like, okay, I get it.
Hi, Wilson. I was just wondering if, you know, Ryan Reynolds, it'd be hard to imagine anybody else playing Deadpool than Ryan Reynolds. Same way you playing Vanessa. Y'all are so good and so much a part of that movie. And I was just wondering, because you see so many takes or outtakes from the movie, how many of your lines were improvised, if any, in the movie?
I have a hard time keeping track because, you know, the script was very free-flowing. Of course, the writers, Paul and Rhett, were there, and they wrote an amazing script, and they were there to rewrite lines. So occasionally, you know, we would improvise something, and then they would give line alts as well, and so would Ryan, and then I came up with a few ideas. One specific moment that I remember is in the very long calendar year sex montage that goes on and on. I realized, you know, these characters obviously match each other because, like she says in the movie, they're both a little bit crazy, but their pieces fit together. But they are very much in love, and there is very much a strong, real bond between them. And I turned to Ryan and I was like, you know, this is all really funny and great, but where's the realness of the relationship? And he's like, oh, you're right. So in doing the Thanksgiving one, I had the idea to just say I love you and mean it, and have that moment be like a drop for a second, like a real moment between them, and it ended up in the movie.
Thank you.
With your schedule the way it is, first off, I'm amazed that you're able to get away to be able to do a film like Deadpool in the hiatus for Gotham.
It's been a small miracle, yeah.
I'd imagine too. I mean, in talking with Ben yesterday, it's like there's that 3-month period where it's like getting to know your family again in that first month. Is there a project that you would want to do, like an indie film, whatever, like I say small rom-com because after Marvel everything winds up being smaller. But is there a project that you want to do in one of those hiatus months that you're like, I just gotta pull this out the drawer and call my agency and make this thing happen again?
Firefly season 2.
Shut up!
Yeah! Exactly. Pull that out of the drawer. I've been fortunate enough actually to be able to do a few movies last year. I did a small rom-com that hopefully will come out soon. With with Martin Freeman, who was one of the funniest men alive. And I did a very bizarre, I say bizarre because the format of it is bizarre, a documentary, a narrative documentary about John DeLorean, where I play Christina Ferrari, his wife, and Alec Baldwin plays John DeLorean. So that should be coming out soon. It's really fun. So it's actually a documentary about them, and then we fill in some scenes that they couldn't get with the two of them. So that was cool. But I have projects that like I love to work on in my spare time. I have TV shows and a feature that I'm trying to get off the ground, and it may or may not happen. But it gives you something to sort of do at the end of the day when you're feeling frustrated about, you know, a particular scene not going well, or you know, not having the power that you want to have on set or whatever. And so it's very healthy to have these dreams and these things that you work on that may or may never get done, but just give you some, you know, that fire keeps it going.
And it's dovetailing off of that. When they brought you into work on Lee to begin with, did they know that it was going to be a multi-season arc, or did they let you know, more importantly? I don't think that they, I genuinely don't think that they had anything planned as far as, you know, just the pitch of the show, what the arc of the first season was going to be. Bringing Lee on, I think, was a bit of a surprise. I don't know that she was intended to always be Gordon's love interest. I think that was something that they ended up needing after the relationship with Barbara kind of, you know, reached its end very soon. And then I think they just were kind of flying by the seat of their pants. I don't know that any of this was planned. I was told I was going to be a guest star, but they wanted the option to keep me as a regular, so of course they owned me contractually. They made sure of that. And then, you know, they had me and they were like, well, we might as well use her. And then it grew and it became what it became. And I think, you know, it's always a surprise. Did the relationship with Ben make it easier or harder for them to make those decisions?
I don't know, you'd have to ask them that. They certainly don't want to make him mad. I'm kidding. If you want job security, marry the lead guy. Just joking. But I think that the story lives independent of us, and I think the fans have really liked seeing them together. And even now, when we're not at all together, it's the possibility that these two characters could go back together, and the history that they have that I think really grounds who Gordon is in the show. It's really the heartbeat for him of, you know, just why he does what he does.
Hi, Morena. I'm Lauren. Thank you for being here. Can you talk about your time on Homeland?
Yes, please.
I just was wondering.
Just talk about it in general?
The memories you have, the experience, and how you thought the show has done since you
it was a really special time for me. I was terrified of getting that job because I thought it was such a difficult role. I didn't want her to seem whiny or victimized or whatever by the circumstances, but it was also a very underwritten character. So it just, I had my work cut out for me. And they had originally cast somebody else in the role for the pilot, and it didn't work. And they, you know, then they found me, and I was like, well, what was it that didn't work? And nobody would really tell me, so I had to sort of just guess. But then I found as I got in that it was more about letting Brody be Brody, like letting that story tell itself, and just being true to what is it like to be essentially a single mom to two kids, one who's a teenager, and trying to make ends meet, and you've got this stranger living with you again that's just not present, and the pain of that, and what you do is you fight against it. What you do is as a mom protecting a family is you survive, and you do what it takes, you know, and finding that strength I think just really helped getting to the core of the character. And I had an incredible support system with them. The writers were unbelievable, the directors, and we rehearsed ad nauseum every single scene as long as it took. Claire is an old friend from school, and we spent a lot of time at night after a long day drinking wine and making dinner for each other, and, you know, just kind of comforting each other, because it was, for her especially, I mean, it's a crazy show.
Thank you.
I'm going to bring it back to Deadpool as we close it out, but there's, I mean, from social media interactions, from interviews, we see just as somebody who is just absolutely engrossed with being warm, charming, and entertaining. What was the worst?
Go on.
What was the worst interaction you had with Ryan? The absolute worst.
The worst?
Yes.
I don't know that I've had a bad one. I mean, he's so charming and so talented and smart and caring and giving, and you know, from the moment we like got in the same room and I was auditioning for him essentially, you know, he whispered to me, he's like, do whatever you want to do, have fun, like this is yours, you know, go for it. And I was like, that's awesome. He was like super encouraging, and you know, I sort of was afraid that somebody like him could be a little overpowering and just like wanting to do things his way and whatever, and he's so open, and he gives me funny lines, like he lets me be the funny guy, you know, and he's like, say it like this, I think it's gonna be great. I'm like, thank you, you know, and I think having that open relationship is really helpful when you're creating something that's so irreverent and, you know, smart ass. Like you want it to be genuine and you want to be able to tap in emotionally somewhere real, so having that trust really helps.
I went with worst because we've heard so many amazing stories
things about
he's
him.
got to be a mutant at some point because it's just.
Believe me, it's a little like, it's intense to be around. You're like, I don't understand how this is happening. Like, why are you so nice and funny and good looking? Really ridiculously good looking.
Even under all that makeup, he's still that good.
I know. He's got this crazy pizza face, and I'm like, I'd kiss you. But I have, and it made a really funny sound because it was all smushy and sweaty. He does take great pleasure in taking that prosthetic off at the end of the day, and it's usually like a like sound, and then sweat just starts to kind of pour out from underneath it. It's really gross.
Kind of like me.
Exactly like me.
Morena, thank you very much for spending your weekend with us. It's always a pleasure having you here. The amazing Morena Baccarin, ladies and gentlemen.